The salvage ship Lucky Break drifted through the graveyard of forgotten vessels. Captain Elena Vasquez stood at the helm, her tired eyes scanning the debris field that stretched for miles in every direction. Broken ships from a dozen different species floated in the darkness like metal ghosts. Most were worthless, picked clean by other salvagers decades ago. Elena had been doing this job for 8 years. She knew how to spot the good finds. Her crew of 12 humans relied on her instincts to survive. In a galaxy where humans were newcomers, where other species had technology thousands of years more advanced, salvage work was one of the few ways her people could make a living. "Captain, I'm getting a strange reading," said Marcus Chen from the scanner station. He was young, barely 25, but he had good eyes for the equipment. "Strange how?" Elena asked. "Big, really big. About 3 kilometers into the dense section." Marcus tapped his screen. "The signature is old. Maybe 200 years or more." Elena felt a flutter in her chest. Old meant possibly untouched. The newer salvagers avoided the deep sections. Too much debris, too dangerous to navigate. But Elena had been doing this long enough to take calculated risks. "Take us in slowly," she ordered. "Watch for debris fields." The Lucky Break moved forward like a cautious animal. The crew was silent. They all knew what a good find could mean. Enough credits to repair their aging ship, maybe enough to buy better equipment, perhaps even enough to take a month off. As they pushed deeper into the graveyard, the shape began to emerge from the darkness. At first, Elena thought her eyes were playing tricks on her. The vessel was massive, easily 5 times the size of anything else in the field. Its hull was dark gray, covered in meteor impacts and space dust. But the basic structure looked intact. "Mother of God," whispered Maria Santos, the engineer. She had come up from the engine room to see what they had found. "That's a dreadnought. Pre-Federation era by the looks of it." Elena moved closer to the viewport. Dreadnoughts were warships from the old days, before the Galactic Federation formed and banned that class of vessel. They were powerful, dangerous, and supposedly all destroyed or dismantled. Yet here one was, floating forgotten in a junkyard. "Why would anyone abandon this?" asked Marcus. "Because it's old technology," Maria said. "The advanced species see these old ships as primitive, not worth the effort to salvage. They'd rather build new vessels with modern systems." Elena smiled. That was the difference between humans and the rest of the galaxy. Humans didn't throw away things that still worked. They fixed them. They improved them. They made do with what they had. "Suit up," Elena ordered. "Maria, Marcus, you're with me. The rest of you, keep the Lucky Break steady and monitor our life signs." The 3 of them floated across the empty space between the ships. Elena's heart pounded in her chest. Up close, the dreadnought was even more impressive. Its weapons ports were dark and empty. Its hull plating was scratched and dented. But the basic structure looked sound. They found an airlock on the port side. Maria worked on the manual override while Elena and Marcus kept watch. After 20 minutes of careful work, the airlock hissed open. Emergency lights flickered on inside, running on backup power that had somehow survived centuries in space. The interior was vast. Corridors stretched in every direction. The ship had been built for a crew of thousands. Now it was empty and silent. Their boots echoed on the metal floors as they explored. "The bridge should be this way," Maria said, checking her portable scanner. "If the computer core is still intact, we can access the ship's logs." They found the bridge after 15 minutes of walking. It was enormous. Command stations sat empty, their screens dark. The captain's chair stood in the center, facing a massive viewport that looked out into space. Maria connected her handheld computer to the main console. After a few moments, lights began flickering across the bridge. Text appeared on screens in a language Elena didn't recognize. "Can you read it?" Elena asked. "Give me a minute," Maria said. She pulled up a translation program. "Okay, this is Varkesh. They were a warrior species that died out about 300 years ago. This ship was one of their fleet flagships. It was damaged in a battle and declared unsalvageable. They abandoned it here." "Declared unsalvageable by Varkesh standards," Elena said. "But what about by human standards?" Maria's eyes widened as she read more data. "Captain, the reactor core is intact. The main engines are damaged but repairable. The weapon systems are mostly stripped, but the targeting computers are still here. The hull integrity is at 73%. By human standards, this ship could fly again." Elena felt electricity run through her body. A working dreadnought. Even an old one would be worth millions. But more than that, it represented something else. A chance for humanity to have real power in a galaxy that looked down on them. How long would repairs take? Elena asked. Maria was quiet for a moment, running calculations. With our current crew and resources, maybe 2 years of full-time work. But Captain, we'd need materials. Lots of materials. And we'd need to keep this secret. If the Federation found out we were rebuilding a dreadnought, they'd shut us down immediately. Then we keep it secret, Elena said firmly. Marcus, send a coded message to the Lucky Break. Tell them to come alongside. We're setting up base camp. Over the next few hours, the crew of the Lucky Break moved essential supplies onto the dreadnought. They set up living quarters in a section near the bridge. They began cataloging what worked and what needed repair. Elena stood on the bridge looking out at the stars. The other species in the galaxy thought humans were scavengers, bottom feeders who picked through their garbage. They didn't understand that humans had survived on Earth by being resourceful, by taking broken things and making them work, by refusing to give up when things looked impossible. This ship was broken, abandoned, forgotten. But Elena saw its potential. She saw what it could become with human determination and ingenuity. The galaxy had written off this dreadnought as worthless scrap from a primitive era. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Elena touched the command console gently, almost reverently. We're going to call you Defiance, she said quietly, because that's what you represent. Humanity's refusal to accept the place others have given us. The crew worked through the night, their welding torches lighting up the darkness like fireflies. They were 12 humans with a dream that seemed impossible. But humanity had built its entire civilization on impossible dreams. This was just the beginning. 18 months had passed since Elena and her crew found the derelict dreadnought. The Defiance was still far from complete, but it was no longer a dead ship. Lights glowed in its corridors. Air circulated through its ventilation systems. The reactor hummed with power, carefully restored by Maria's skilled hands. The crew had grown from 12 to 47. Elena had been careful about who she recruited. Only humans she trusted completely. People who understood the need for secrecy. Every person who came aboard signed an agreement. They would tell no one about the Defiance until Elena gave the word. The Galactic Federation had rules about warships. Dreadnought-class vessels were banned. If the Federation discovered what they were doing, they would seize the ship. They might even arrest the crew. But Elena believed the risk was worth it. Humanity needed something to level the playing field. On this particular morning, Elena was in the weapons bay with her chief of security, James Rodriguez. They stood before what looked like a mess of mismatched parts bolted together in ways that would make any proper engineer cry. It's ugly, James said, but I think it'll work. The weapon system in front of them was built from parts of 6 different species technology. The Varkesh targeting system connected to human-made firing controls. The power conduits came from a scrapped Threen merchant vessel. The actual weapon barrels were modified mining lasers that Maria had bought cheap from a liquidation sale. Will it fire? Elena asked. Oh, it'll fire, James said with a grin. The question is whether it'll fire accurately, and whether it'll blow us up in the process. Elena laughed. That was the story of the entire Defiance. Nothing was built the right way. Everything was improvised. They used duct tape where they should have used precision welding. They used override codes where they should have used proper programming. But somehow, impossibly, it all worked. We need to test it, Elena said, but quietly. I know a place, James replied. Dead zone about 2 days from here. No shipping lanes. No patrols. We can fire at asteroids and no one will notice. Elena was about to respond when Marcus's voice came through her communicator. Captain, you need to come to the bridge now. The tone in his voice made Elena run. She reached the bridge in under 2 minutes. Marcus was at the communications station, his face pale. What is it? Elena demanded. Message from New Perth Colony, Marcus said. They're under attack. Elena's blood went cold. New Perth was a human settlement on the edge of Federation space. 3,000 people lived there. Families, children, it was one of humanity's first successful colonies. Who's attacking them? Elena asked. Pirates, Marcus said. Kralax raiders by the ship signatures. 3 vessels. The colony's defense platforms are down. They're asking for help, but the nearest Federation patrol is 6 days away. Elena looked at the tactical display. New Perth was only 8 hours away at full speed. But the Defiance wasn't ready. They hadn't finished testing the engines. The weapons were untried. The shields were operating at 60% capacity at best. Maria arrived on the bridge breathing hard. She had obviously run from the engine room. "I heard," she said. "Captain, we're not ready for combat." "How not ready?" Elena asked. "The engines will get us there, but I can't guarantee they'll work properly under stress. The weapons might fire or might explode. The shields will probably hold against 1 or 2 hits, but not sustained fire." Maria paused. "If we go to New Perth, we might not come back." Elena looked at the message from the colony. She could see the video feed. Buildings burning. People running. Pirates taking whatever they wanted because they knew no help was coming in time. "How long would it take the Federation to respond?" Elena asked. 6 days minimum, Marcus said. "The colony will be destroyed by then. The pirates will take what they want and leave. That's their pattern." Elena thought about her own daughter, living on New Mars with Elena's sister. She thought about all the human children scattered across these colonies, trying to build new lives in a galaxy that saw them as second-class citizens. The Federation wouldn't come in time. They never did for human colonies. Humanity was too new, too unimportant. When pirates raided human settlements, the response was slow. Sometimes it didn't come at all. "Prep the ship for immediate departure," Elena ordered. "All crew to combat stations, Captain," Maria said quietly. "We don't even know if the ship will survive the journey, let alone a fight." "Then we'll find out," Elena said firmly. "Those are our people down there. If we don't help them, who will?" The crew moved with purpose that came from months of working together. They had all heard about New Perth. Many had friends or family there. The fact that their ship might fall apart around them didn't slow them down. 2 hours later, the Defiance broke from its hiding spot in the junkyard. For the first time in 200 years, the old dreadnought moved under its own power. The engines roared to life, pushing the massive vessel forward. On the bridge, Elena watched the stars streak past. The engines were holding. "That was something. Jump drive charging," Marcus reported. "We'll be able to make the jump to New Perth in 20 minutes. "Status on weapons?" Elena asked. "Online," James reported. "Probably, maybe. I'll know for sure when we try to fire them." Elena couldn't help but smile. This was insane. They were taking an untested ship with improvised weapons into combat against experienced pirates. Any military tactician would call it suicide. But Elena wasn't a military tactician. She was a salvager. She was used to making broken things work. And right now, the Defiance was the only hope New Perth had. The jump to New Perth took 6 hours. When they dropped out of faster-than-light travel, the colony world appeared on their screens. 3 pirate ships orbited the planet, their weapons firing down at the settlements below. "They haven't seen us yet," Marcus said. "We came in behind the moon. Gives us maybe 2 minutes before they detect us." "Good," Elena said. "Tactical, what are we facing?" James studied his displays. 3 Kralax raiders. Fast ships, light armor, heavy guns. They're built to hit hard and run fast. Against a normal target, they'd be dangerous. "And against us?" Elena asked. "We're bigger, slower, but our armor is much thicker, even damaged as it is. If we can get close enough to use our weapons, we have a chance." "Then let's get close," Elena ordered. "All power to engines. Take us in." The Defiance rounded the moon and accelerated toward the planet. For a moment, nothing happened. Then alarms started blaring on the pirate ships. They had detected the dreadnought. Elena watched as the pirate vessels turned to face them. She could imagine the confusion on those ships. A dreadnought appearing from nowhere. Impossible. All dreadnoughts had been destroyed centuries ago. "They're hailing us," Marcus said. "Ignore them," Elena replied. "James, are weapons ready?" "As ready as they'll ever be," James said. "Targeting the lead ship. Fire when in range," the pirates fired first. Energy beams lanced through space, striking the Defiance's shields. The ship shuddered but held together. Lights flickered on the bridge but stayed on. "Shields at 40%, Maria called out. "That hurt more than I expected." "Return fire," Elena ordered. The Defiance's improvised weapons came to life. The mismatched system that shouldn't work, that violated every rule of proper engineering, somehow fired. Beams of energy shot out from the dreadnought, striking the lead pirate ship. The pirate vessel's shields failed instantly. The beams punched through its hull like it was paper. Explosions rippled across the ship as it broke apart. On the bridge of the Defiance, the crew stared in shock. "Did that just happen?" Marcus asked. "Apparently our weapons worked," James said, sounding surprised. "Really well, actually." Way better than they should. The two remaining pirate ships broke formation and ran. They weren't stupid. They knew they couldn't fight a dreadnought, even an old one. Elena watched them flee with satisfaction. Send a message to New Perth. Tell them the cavalry has arrived. And someone get me a damage report on our systems. The galaxy had viewed humanity's salvage operation as pathetic scavenging. A joke. Humans playing with broken toys they didn't understand. As the Defiance settled into orbit above New Perth, Elena knew that perception was about to change. The junk heap had just won its first battle, and it had done so in a way that no one expected. Word spread fast across the galaxy. A human ship had appeared from nowhere and destroyed a Kralax raider in a single shot. At first, most species didn't believe it. Humans were scavengers, not warriors. They flew broken-down ships held together with hope and improvisation. The idea that they had a functioning warship seemed impossible, but the evidence was clear. The wreckage of the pirate ship floated in orbit around New Perth. Sensor logs from the colony confirmed what happened. A Dreadnought-class vessel had saved them, a ship that shouldn't exist. Elena Vasquez became famous overnight. Some called her a hero. Others called her a fool. The Galactic Federation called her in for questioning. She went because she had no choice, but she went on her own terms. She arrived at the Federation headquarters on the Defiance, making sure every sensor in the system got a good look at her ship. The meeting with the Federation Council was tense. 5 species sat in judgment. The Threen ambassador spoke first, her voice cold and dismissive. Captain Vasquez, you are operating a banned warship. Dreadnought-class vessels were outlawed under the Treaty of Galactic Peace. You must surrender this ship immediately. Elena stood before them calmly. She had prepared for this. With respect, Ambassador, I found a derelict vessel in a registered salvage zone. Under Federation salvage law, that makes it my property. I repaired it using legal means. I have broken no laws. The law forbids the construction or operation of dreadnoughts, the Threen ambassador insisted. I didn't construct it, Elena replied. I salvaged it. Those are different things according to your own legal codes. Check Section 47, Paragraph 12 of the Salvage Rights Act. The ambassadors looked uncomfortable. Elena was right. The law had a loophole. No one had thought to close it because no one imagined anyone would be crazy enough to restore an ancient warship. This vessel is dangerous, said the Corthan ambassador, a large being covered in scales. You used it in combat without authorization. I used it to defend a human colony from pirates, Elena said. Also legal under the self-defense provision. The Federation patrol was 6 days away. Should I have let 3,000 people die while I waited for proper authorization? The Galactic Council had no good answer to that. The meeting ended with a warning. The Federation would be watching the Defiance closely. Any violation of law would result in immediate seizure of the vessel. Elena left the headquarters with a smile. They couldn't legally take her ship, and she had just shown the entire galaxy that humanity had teeth. Over the next 6 months, the Defiance became a legend. Elena and her crew hunted pirates who preyed on human colonies. They escorted merchant vessels through dangerous space. They responded to distress calls that the Federation ignored. And they did it all in ways that baffled the galaxy's military experts. The Defiance didn't fight like a normal warship. It couldn't. It was still held together with improvised repairs and jury-rigged systems. But that's what made it dangerous. It was unpredictable. In the Battle of Theta Station, the Defiance faced off against 4 pirate cruisers. Normal tactics said Elena should stay at long range and use her heavier guns. Instead, she flew straight into the middle of the enemy formation. The pirates scattered, confused by the aggressive maneuver. The Defiance then deployed its cargo bay doors and released thousands of pieces of metal trash. The trash scattered across space, confusing enemy sensors. The pirates couldn't target the Defiance properly through all the debris. Meanwhile, James had programmed their weapons to track the pirates by heat signature instead of sensor return. The Defiance picked them off one by one while hidden in its own garbage cloud. Military analysts across the galaxy watched the battle recordings in disbelief. Who fights a battle using trash as a weapon? It violated every principle of proper naval combat, but it worked. The Battle of Cassian Belt was even stranger. 5 pirate ships tried to ambush the Defiance in an asteroid field. Elena saw them coming. Instead of fighting, she flew her ship straight toward the largest asteroid she could find. Then she fired her mining lasers not at the enemy but at the asteroid itself. The massive rock broke apart, sending huge chunks flying in every direction. The pirates had to scatter or be crushed. In the chaos, the Defiance picked them off easily. Elena had turned the battlefield itself into a weapon. But the battle that truly shocked the galaxy happened at New Jakarta. A slaver fleet had attacked the colony, trying to capture humans to sell on the black market. 6 ships, all heavily armed. The Defiance arrived within hours, but this time Elena was badly outnumbered. "Captain, they're surrounding us," Marcus reported. "Classic pincer formation. They'll hit us from all sides at once." Elena studied the tactical display. The slavers were good. They knew what they were doing. A normal captain would try to break through the weakest point in the formation, but Elena didn't think like a normal captain. "Maria, can we overcharge the inertial dampeners?" Elena asked. "Overcharge them?" Maria's voice came through the intercom from engineering. "Captain, they're already operating beyond specifications. If I push them harder, they might fail completely. But if they don't fail, what happens?" Maria was quiet for a moment. "Well, theoretically, we could make maneuvers that would normally crush the crew from the G-forces. The dampeners would protect us, maybe. Probably, there's a 30% chance they'll explode and kill us all." "I'll take those odds," Elena said. "Do it." What happened next became the stuff of legend. The Defiance began moving in ways that shouldn't be possible for a ship its size. It spun, dove, and accelerated in patterns that defied physics. The inertial dampeners, rebuilt wrong by human engineers who didn't fully understand the original technology, somehow performed better than they were designed to. The slaver ships tried to track the Defiance but couldn't. Their targeting computers kept losing lock. The Dreadnought moved like a fighter, impossible for a vessel of its mass. It shouldn't work, but it did. The Defiance took out all 6 slaver ships in under 20 minutes. By the time it was over, military academies across the galaxy were already analyzing the battle. Some called it brilliant. Others called it insane. Everyone agreed it should have been impossible. After the battle, Elena received a message from Admiral Kreth of the Galactic Defense Force. The Corthan officer was known as one of the finest military minds in the Federation. "Captain Vasquez, I have studied your tactics extensively. I must ask, where did you receive your military training?" Elena laughed. "I didn't, Admiral. I was a salvager. I learned to fight by making broken things work and staying alive in dangerous places." "That explains much," the Admiral replied. "You fight like no trained officer would. You break every rule in the tactical handbook. It's infuriating to watch, and highly effective." Word of the Defiance spread beyond just military circles. Oppressed colonies started requesting its help. Merchant guilds wanted to hire it for protection. Even some Federation members quietly reached out, asking if Elena would help with problems their own militaries couldn't solve. The human ship that had been laughed at as a junk heap was now feared and respected. Pirates avoided systems where the Defiance operated. Slavers stopped targeting human colonies. The mere threat of Elena Vasquez showing up was enough to deter most criminals. But success brought new problems. The Kralax hegemony, the galaxy's dominant military power, was watching. They saw humanity's growing confidence. They saw how the Defiance inspired other species to question Kralax dominance, and they didn't like it. In his command chamber on the hegemony homeworld, war leader Thrakus studied reports about the human warship. He was old by Kralax standards, covered in battle scars from 50 years of combat. He had conquered 12 systems for the hegemony. He had never lost a major battle. "This human thinks she can challenge our superiority with one ancient ship," he growled to his subordinates. "She makes us look weak. Every battle she wins encourages rebellion in our territory." "She is clever, war leader," one advisor said carefully. "Perhaps we should negotiate." Thrakus slammed his fist on the table. "Negotiate? With a scavenger? No, we will destroy this ship and make an example of humanity. Let the galaxy remember what happens to those who challenge Kralax's power." He turned to his fleet commander. "Assemble the elite guard, 12 of our finest warships. We will find this Defiance and crush it. Then we will proceed to Earth itself and show humanity the price of their arrogance." The advisor looked worried. War leader attacking Earth would violate Federation law. "The Federation is weak," Thrakus said dismissively. "They won't act, and by the time they do, it will be too late. Humanity will learn their place. At the bottom." News of the hegemony's plans reached Elena 3 days later through back channels. A sympathetic Threen information broker sent her a coded message. The hegemony was coming, not just to destroy the Defiance, but to attack Earth itself. Elena stood on the bridge of her ship looking at the message. Her hands trembled slightly. This was different from fighting pirates. The Kralax Elite Guard was the finest military force in the galaxy. 12 warships, all modern, all crewed by experienced warriors. The smart move would be to run, take the Defiance and hide in deep space until the crisis passed. But that would mean abandoning Earth. Abandoning her daughter and her sister and billions of other humans. The entire crew of the Defiance gathered in the main cargo bay. 138 humans stood waiting to hear what their captain had to say. Elena looked at their faces. Some were young, barely out of their teens. Others were veterans like herself, scarred by hard lives on the frontier. All of them had volunteered to serve on this impossible ship. I received word from our contacts, Elena began. The Kralax hegemony is sending their elite guard to destroy us. 12 warships, the finest military force in the galaxy. Their mission is to eliminate the Defiance and then proceed to Earth to teach humanity a lesson. Silence filled the bay. Everyone understood what that meant. The Kralax didn't show mercy. If they reached Earth, millions would die. I won't lie to you, Elena continued. We're outgunned, outnumbered, out-equipped. Any military expert would say we have no chance. They would tell us to run and hide. She paused. But we're not military. We're salvagers. We're people who make impossible things work. And I think we can win this. How? Someone called out from the crowd. By doing what we always do, Elena said with a slight smile. By breaking all the rules. By using everything we have in ways our enemy won't expect. And by fighting for something they can't understand. They're fighting for pride and dominance. We're fighting for our home. Maria stepped forward. Captain, even if we somehow survive, even if we win, the hegemony will just send more ships. This won't end. You're right, Elena agreed. Which is why we can't just survive. We have to win so completely, so decisively that the hegemony thinks twice about ever threatening humanity again. We need to make them afraid of us, James laughed, a harsh sound. Afraid of one ship? That's a tall order, Captain. Then we better get creative, Elena said. Everyone to your stations. We have 3 days before the hegemony fleet arrives at Earth. 3 days to prepare for the fight of our lives. The crew dispersed, moving with purpose. Elena returned to the bridge with her senior staff. They gathered around the tactical display showing Earth and the surrounding space. Tactically, how do we approach this? Elena asked. James pulled up the data they had on Kralax elite guard ships. Each one is more advanced than anything we've faced. Better shields, faster engines, more powerful weapons. In a straight fight, any one of them could probably destroy us. 12 together, we wouldn't last 5 minutes. So we don't fight straight, Elena said. What advantages do we have? We know the terrain, Marcus offered. They're coming to our home system. We know every asteroid, every debris field, every satellite. They don't. Good, Elena said. What else? We're unpredictable, Maria added. Every time we've fought, we've done something they didn't expect. We need to push that even further. And we have help, Elena said. She activated a communication channel. Get me Earth Defense Command. An older man appeared on the screen. General Chen, head of Earth's small defense force. He looked tired. Captain Vasquez, I assume you've heard about the hegemony fleet. I have, Elena said. And I have a plan, but I need your help. All of it. Over the next 3 days, Earth became a hive of activity. Every ship that could fly, military or civilian, was recalled to the home system. Mining ships, cargo haulers, even the small patrol boats that normally guarded the outer planets. None of them could stand against a Kralax warship. But Elena wasn't planning to fight them directly. Maria and her engineering team worked around the clock, modifying everything they could get their hands on. They took mining explosives and turned them into space mines. They programmed cargo containers to act as decoys. They even rigged several old satellites to emit false sensor readings. It's a mess, Maria told Elena on the second day. Nothing matches anything else. Half this equipment shouldn't work together, but I think it will. That's what they said about the Defiance, Elena replied. And here we are. On the third day, the Kralax fleet arrived. 12 massive warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. They were beautiful in a deadly way. Sleek hulls, perfect formations, the pride of the most powerful military in the galaxy. War leader Thrakus stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominant. He looked at the sensor readings with satisfaction. The human homeworld. Finally, we will teach these upstarts their place. Do we have a location on their warship? Yes, war leader, his tactical officer reported. The Defiance is in orbit around Earth. It appears to be alone. Alone? Thrakus laughed. They have one ancient ship against our entire elite guard, and they stay to fight? Human stupidity knows no bounds. All ships advance. We will destroy the Defiance, then demand Earth surrender. The Kralax fleet moved forward in perfect formation. They were confident. They had every right to be. They outnumbered the enemy 12-1. Their technology was superior. Their crews were experienced warriors. This would be an easy victory. On the bridge of the Defiance, Elena watched them come. All ships, remember the plan. Wait for my signal. Captain, they're entering the debris field, Marcus reported. Earth's solar system had a lot of space junk. Old satellites, discarded rocket stages, pieces of failed space stations. Usually ships avoided these areas. But Elena had positioned the Defiance right in the middle of the densest section. The Kralax fleet slowed slightly, navigating around the larger pieces of debris. It was a minor inconvenience. Nothing more. That's when Elena triggered the first surprise. Hundreds of old satellites thought to be dead and abandoned, suddenly activated. They began broadcasting on every frequency, creating a wall of electronic noise. The Kralax sensors went haywire, unable to filter out the interference. What is this? Thrakus demanded. Clear those sensors. Working on it, war leader, the tactical officer said, his voice tense. They're using some kind of jamming system. Very primitive, but effective in these close quarters. While the Kralax fleet struggled with their sensors, cargo containers that had been floating in the debris field suddenly activated their thrusters. They weren't weapons. They were just empty boxes. But they moved and accelerated, creating even more confusion on the Kralax sensors. How many were real ships? How many were decoys? All ships spread out, Thrakus ordered. Find the real target and destroy it. The Kralax formation broke apart, ships moving to search the debris field. That's exactly what Elena wanted. Together, the 12 ships were nearly invincible. Separated, they were vulnerable. Now, Elena said calmly. The Defiance emerged from behind a disabled space station where it had been hiding. Its weapons, that impossible mix of technology that shouldn't work, opened fire on the nearest Kralax ship. The enemy shields held, but barely. The Kralax captain was shocked. That old human ship hit harder than it should. Before the Kralax ship could respond, 20 Earth mining vessels appeared from hiding spots throughout the debris field. They weren't warships. They were civilian craft with mining lasers and explosive charges. Individually, they couldn't hurt a Kralax warship. But 20 of them together, all focusing on one target, the Kralax ship's shields failed. Explosions rippled across its hull. It tried to retreat but couldn't maneuver properly in the crowded debris field. The mining ship swarmed it like insects, cutting it apart piece by piece. One down, James reported. 11 to go. Impossible. Thrakus roared. They destroyed the Thunder. All ships regroup immediately. But regrouping in the debris field was difficult. The Kralax ships had to navigate around asteroids, old satellites, and now hundreds of decoy containers. The Defiance and its swarm of civilian ships hit them again and again, striking from unexpected angles and then disappearing into the debris. This is not warfare, Thrakus shouted. This is chaos. That's the idea, Elena muttered on her bridge. Marcus, deploy the mines. Hundreds of improvised mines built from mining explosives and scrap metal activated throughout the debris field. They didn't move. They just waited, drifting like any other piece of space junk. When a Kralax ship passed close to one, it detonated. The explosions weren't powerful enough to destroy a warship. But they damaged shields. They created more confusion, and they forced the Kralax fleet to move even more cautiously. This is a trap, one of Thrakus's commanders said. We should withdraw and reassess. No, Thrakus snarled. We are the elite guard. We do not retreat from salvagers and miners. All ships, weapons free. Destroy everything that moves. The Kralax fleet began firing wildly, trying to clear the debris field. But that just created more debris. More places to hide. More confusion. Elena saw her opportunity. All civilian ships fall back to Earth. You've done your part. Defiance with me. We're going after the flagship. Captain, that's suicide, Maria said from engineering. The flagship has twice our firepower. But half our crazy, Elena replied. Trust me. The Defiance accelerated straight toward the Dominant. It was a bold move, almost insane. The flagship opened fire with everything it had. Energy beams and missiles filled the space between them. Evasive maneuvers, Elena ordered. The Defiance began to move in its impossible way, the broken inertial dampeners allowing maneuvers that defied normal physics. It spun and twisted, dodging fire that should have hit it. Not all of it, though. Explosions rocked the ship, shields failing. Maria called out. "Hull breaches on deck 7 and 9. "Keep going," Elena shouted. "Get us close." The battle above Earth had lasted 6 hours. 6 hours of chaos, confusion, and desperate fighting. The debris field was now even more crowded with wrecked ships and spent weapons. 5 Kralax warships floated dead in space. 3 more were heavily damaged and trying to retreat. The remaining 4, including the crippled flagship, had formed a defensive circle. The Defiance hung in space nearby, barely functional. Smoke poured from multiple hull breaches. Half its weapons were offline. The shields were gone completely, but it was still there, still fighting. On the bridge, Elena wiped blood from a cut on her forehead. The last hit had thrown her against her chair. Around her, the crew worked frantically to keep the ship running. Sparks fell from damaged circuits. Emergency lights cast everything in a red glow. "Status?" Elena asked, her voice hoarse. Maria's voice came through the damaged speakers. "Engineering is a disaster. We're running on backup power. Main engines are at 30%. I can give you 1 more jump to faster than light, maybe 2, but that's it. After that, we're flying on momentum alone." "Weapons?" Elena asked. 3 functional cannons, James reported. Maybe 20 missiles left. "That's everything." Marcus looked up from his console. "Captain, I'm receiving a transmission from the Kralax flagship. War Leader Threkus wants to talk." Elena smiled grimly. "Put him through." The screen flickered to life. War Leader Threkus appeared, his armor scorched and damaged. Behind him, his bridge was in chaos. Crew members worked to control fires and repair damaged systems. "Captain Vasquez," Thrakus said slowly, "you fight well. Better than I expected. Better than any enemy I have faced." "Thank you," Elena said simply. "Are you here to surrender?" Thrakus actually laughed, though it sounded painful. "Surrender? No, but I wish to end this battle before more lives are wasted. We will withdraw. Return to hegemony space. You have my word, your word," Elena said. "Forgive me if I don't trust that. What's to stop you from coming back with more ships?" "Nothing," Thrakus admitted. "But I am not a fool. I came here expecting an easy victory over an inferior opponent. Instead, I found warriors. Clever, resourceful, relentless warriors. You destroyed half my fleet with 1 ship and a collection of mining vessels. If I return with more ships, you will find new ways to fight us. New ways to turn our advantages into disadvantages." He paused, looking directly at Elena. "I have fought for 50 years. I have conquered 12 systems. I have never lost until today. You have taught me something important, human. It is not the size of the ship or the power of the weapons that matters. It is the will of those who fight, and your will is stronger than ours." Elena studied him carefully. "You could still win this fight. You have 4 functional ships. We're barely holding together." "Perhaps," Thrakus said, "but at what cost? I would lose the rest of my fleet destroying you. And even if I won, the story would spread across the galaxy. The story of how 1 human ship and a handful of miners defeated the elite guard. That story would inspire every oppressed colony, every conquered world. It would do more damage to the hegemony than a dozen military defeats." He straightened despite his obvious pain. "So I offer terms. We withdraw. We leave Earth alone. In return, you do not pursue us. You let my surviving ships return home, and we both tell the truth about what happened here. No lies, no propaganda, just the facts." Elena was quiet for a long moment. Her crew watched her, waiting for her decision. Part of her wanted to finish this, to destroy every Kralax ship and remove the threat completely. But another part, the part that had kept her alive through years of salvage work, knew when to accept a victory. "I accept your terms," Elena said. "You have 1 hour to collect your damaged ships and leave the system. If you're still here after that, we fire on you with everything we have left." "Understood," Thrakus said. He hesitated, then added, "You asked for my word, human. I give it now. The hegemony will not return to Earth, not in my lifetime, and I will make sure every warrior in our fleet knows why. Because humanity has proven they are not prey. They are predators." The transmission ended. Elena watched on the sensors as the Kralax ship slowly formed up and began moving away from Earth. They limped toward the edge of the system, damaged but not destroyed. True to his word, Thrakus left. The bridge was silent for a moment. Then someone started clapping. It spread through the crew until everyone was cheering. They had done it. Against impossible odds, they had won. "All crew, this is the captain," Elena said over the ship-wide communication system. "You did the impossible today. Every single one of you. Now let's get this bucket of bolts back to dock for repairs. We've earned a rest." The Defiance limped back to Earth, trailing debris and smoke. As it descended toward the orbital shipyard, thousands of ships came out to meet it. Civilian vessels, military patrol boats, even personal shuttles. They formed an honor guard escorting the battered warship home. On Earth, billions of humans watched the sky. They had witnessed the battle, seen their world defended by one impossible ship and a crew of salvagers, miners, and dreamers. For the first time since humanity joined the galactic community, they felt truly safe. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light. Every species heard about the Battle of Earth. The story of how a salvaged warship defeated the elite guard became legend. Military academies studied the tactics. News organizations interviewed anyone who had been there. Artists created paintings and songs about the battle. But the impact went far beyond just military analysis. In the oppressed colonies under hegemony control, people began to hope. If humans could stand up to the Kralax and win, maybe they could too. Underground resistance movements grew stronger. Protests became more common. The hegemony found itself fighting rebellions on a dozen worlds. The Galactic Federation called an emergency session. They could no longer ignore humanity. The humans had proven themselves in the most definitive way possible. They had fought and won against the galaxy's strongest military power. 3 months after the battle, Elena stood before the Galactic Council once again. But this time she wasn't defending herself. She was there to accept humanity's formal recognition as a full member species of the Federation. The Threen ambassador who had once demanded the Defiance be surrendered now spoke with respect. "Captain Vasquez, on behalf of the Galactic Federation, we welcome humanity as full members. Your people have shown qualities that we value: courage, resourcefulness, and the will to defend the innocent." "Thank you," Elena said simply. "We only did what any species would do. We protected our home." "No," the Corthan ambassador said. "You did more than that. You changed how we see warfare, how we see problem-solving, how we see humanity itself. You took something we all dismissed as worthless and turned it into something extraordinary. That is a gift that goes beyond military victory." After the ceremony, Elena returned to the Defiance. The ship was in dry dock undergoing proper repairs for the first time. Real engineers worked alongside her crew, their faces showing disbelief at how the systems had been put together. "Captain, you really shouldn't have connected the power couplings this way," one Federation engineer said. "It violates every safety protocol." "And yet it worked," Maria said with a smile. "That's the human way. We don't follow the rules. We make the rules work for us." Elena walked through the corridors of her ship. They were cleaner now, better organized. The Federation had offered to completely rebuild the Defiance with modern technology. Elena had refused. She wanted to keep the ship the way it was, a reminder of where they came from, a symbol of human ingenuity and determination. She found James in the weapons bay, training new crew members. Since the battle, volunteers had flooded in. Everyone wanted to serve on the famous ship. Elena had to turn away hundreds of applicants. "Captain," James said when he saw her, "I was just telling the recruits about the trash cloud maneuver. They think I'm making it up." "I wish he was," Elena said to the wide-eyed recruits. Using garbage as a tactical weapon seemed insane at the time. But it worked. Remember that. Sometimes the craziest ideas are the best ones. That night, Elena stood alone on the observation deck looking down at Earth. Her home, the planet that had given birth to a species that refused to quit. That took broken things and made them work. That turned a junkyard derelict into a warship that rattled the galaxy. Marcus joined her, carrying 2 cups of coffee. He handed her one and stood beside her in comfortable silence. "What do you think happens now?" he finally asked. "The Federation wants us to train other species in human tactics. The Earth government wants us to build more ships like the Defiance. Everyone wants something from us." Elena sipped her coffee. "We do what we've always done. We stay true to ourselves. We don't become what others want us to be. We remain salvagers at heart. People who see potential where others see junk. People who solve problems with whatever tools we have. Think we'll ever face another fight like the hegemony? Marcus asked. Maybe, Elena said. Probably. But we'll handle it the same way we handled everything else, with creativity, determination, and a complete disregard for what's supposed to be possible. She smiled and raised her coffee cup. To the Defiance, the junkyard ship that proved humanity belongs among the stars. Marcus clinked his cup against hers. To the Defiance,